we have Sebastian Zilliacus, Managing Director of EMURGO Media. Let's welcome him.
Hello. Hello. All right. Thank you. I thought I was in an old home, old folks' home, and crypto and Web3 is a little bit more exciting than that. Today's session, we are really going to go through how powerful the community in Web3 really is, and we will start with prehistoric humans. We will, during this session, be a little bit philosophical, a little bit psychological, to really understand the foundation and background of Web3 communities. So let's start. As previously mentioned, my name is Sebastian. I'm the Managing Director of EMURGO Media. EMURGO, for those who doesn't know, is the commercial arm of Cardano blockchain. So then you know what kind of blockchain I support. So within human evolution, I segmented human evolution into 3 different phases. For sure, there are many more smaller iterations of things that have happened, but to simplify it, we structured into 3 different phases. And the first one is prehistoric humans. During this era, there is a big focus on group. Smaller groups instead of bigger groups. It's not focused on individuals, and the main reason for that is survival. You needed to be in a group in order to survive as an individual. But at the same time, during this era, there was a lot of fighting between other groups, and if you were a little bit diverse, you were excluded from the group. Right. Next stage, or next phase, is really where we are today. And I call it the Web 2 humans. During current phase and Web 2, the focus really relies on individualistic. Individual is really important. And this is what we see today in different kind of social media and other things, where people are sharing a lot of information about themselves. Right. Next phase, which we are transitioning into at this very much moment, is what we call the Web3 humans. And in this space, community is important. And in contrast to group, community is bigger and is all about shared identity, shared values. And the focus we have here is on we and us, compared to Web 2, which is focused on me and I. But to summarize this, whether you are in the Web 3 human phase, Web 2 human phase, or prehistoric, I would like to use a quote from one of my favorite philosophers called Aristotle. And he has said, "Man is by nature a social animal. An individual who is unsocial naturally and not accidentally is either beneath our notice or more than human. Society is something that precedes the individual." So what that really means is that each one of us, every single human being, have an innate desire to belong to a bigger agenda, to belong to a group, belong to a community. And that is really important. And that is what I would say is one of the essence of Web3 growth and drive, to really belong together. Another thing that is really important to look at when we come to specifically the transition between Web 2 and Web 3, and it relates to how do we approach your identity. And that is the next thing. And to me, it's quite interesting to even ask yourself, if someone asks you what your identity is, what is the first thing that you think about? And potentially it could be multiple different identities and it's something that actually is happening within the Web 2 side. So if we look at Web 2, which I call the individualism, what really matters most, or rather say, we post things on different kind of social media, we post on different websites about the life we live, about what we are doing, as really markers of our identity. And a lot of drive here is based on what I say I am. So there is no dialogue where someone else add value to it. So Web 2 is very much about I say this is what I am, this is what I do. During this process of us posting things on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, you could say we pretty much advertise ourselves and our identity. But with all this advertising of ourselves, you would think that we would all be having a financial freedom by now. But that's not really the case, right? Only if you have hundreds of millions of followers, fans, you could actually generate any kind of income in the Web 2 space. So it's really an empty promise. And related to that, because we use different kind of platforms, 99% of the value is locked within that platform, which is very different from the Web3 space. And again, personal brand is based on what we say the personal brand is. Likewise, because we use different kind of platforms, they are not connected in the Web2 space, our identity is fragmented. One of the examples could be you using TikTok, and your identity in TikTok would be like dancing, I don't know, eating food, whatever it might be. But in LinkedIn, for example, you would be saying, these are five top strategies to enter Singapore as a market, for example. So the identity and what you post, what you achieve is very, very different in these spaces. And the words we use here is I and me. Right. If we move over to Web3, which I call post-individualist, our identities are, in comparison to Web 2, mostly driven by a communication of me saying who I am and the community reverse back and say this is who you are. So it's a combination of the two. So in a way it's both chosen and it's given. At the same time, 4 centuries humans have been segregated, they have been even murdered based on different kind of identity. But then at the same time, identity and connection is something that has given us community, something around shared values, shared identities. And this is really what Web3 is all about. And within this space, we really talk about we and us. The other difference compared to Web 2, which then is focused on, or rather say, it's the financial aspect is locked within different kind of platforms, and it's not owned by us. So within Web 3, it's really about reversing that and giving back the ownership to you as a user. Now, lastly, as we started a little bit philosophical, would like to ask a question which we don't need to answer today, but to me it's very interesting, and that is, do we shape our online identities, online personas, based on our identities? Or does our online personas shape our identities? Now, moving forward, Why is community so important in the Web3, and why do we need community? So within Web3, they have really created a revolutionary transformation of principles and approach for using internet. And that specifically is through giving decision power as well as control back to its users. And therefore, community building has become one of the top priorities for ensuring growth within the Web3 space. Today, the market cap within this industry is roughly about 28 billion. Targeting or perceived value would be about 80 billion by 2030. That's a massive, massive growth within this industry. Web3 projects are inviting more and more users to join the Web3 space every day, and that, or therefore, stronger communities are essential requirement for adoption of Web3 technologies. And then you would say, if you would be a project owner, when do I really need to have a community? When do I start to build a community? And I would say you should start before your project has started. And I come back to that a bit later on why you should do that and why it's really important to build a community as early as possible. So today within Web3, social coordination is equally much needed as technical advancement. Now, within community, and to build it up, there's always a give and take. And that is between the developers, the project owners, and it's between the community. And there are certain things that each one of these parties would require from the other. So if we take a look at what are the expectations as me as a developer or project owner from the community itself. The first one is feedback. So in contrast to Web 2, Web3 communities are very, very willing to provide feedback on your project, on your business. That could be on your design. I can share with you an experience that we had specifically myself by building Cardano Spot, which is a social network focusing on the Cardano ecosystem. And that is roughly about a year ago, we launched our alpha version. And the version itself was very much accepted and had positive feedback from the community. But the brand name, which was not Cardano Spot at that point of time, was not equally appreciated. So the feedback they gave allowed us to come up with multiple different new potential brand names, and we had a voting session on what the community would think is the best brand name and the adoption. And that is a really good way of getting feedback from the community, allowing them to be part of what you're building. And then because they are part of what you're building, you would also increase the adoption of your projects moving forward. Another thing is support in scaling. And this is really, really important, which also to a certain extent is more difficult in the Web 2 space. So as you grow your community, you would require or you would expect the community to support you scaling your project itself. Because the reason why they like your project is that they share the same values that you do, and they share the same thought around your project and solution as you do. The third thing is advocate for a project. Now that is quite similar to scaling, but it's still different. And advocation would be word of mouth. So how do you really, in contrast with Web 2, where you spend a lot of money on marketing for your project, you can utilize the community to do a lot of this effort for you. If we then move over, what are the expectations from the community? So if these three bigger areas is something you expect the community to provide you, the community would definitely want to have something in return. So the first thing that community want is involvement. Very important. And that goes very much in line with providing feedback as you as a project owner. So they want to be involved in different kind of decision making. It would be involvement in just understanding what you are going on. They are very happy to be part of viewing your roadmap. Is one of the main criteria that community would like to see, and then provide feedback if this roadmap is according to the better of the community itself. The second thing is decision power. And I'm not talking about only DAOs, which is by nature giving out decision power to the owners, but decision-making power in the sense of where will this product or where will this project go towards. The same way as my experience related to brand name. They want to be able to make decisions of where the company is moving. Third thing is, of course, rewards. They say there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? And it relates to whatever the expectations of the project owner is, marketing, advocation, scaling. The community would definitely have an expectations that they would get some sort of reward with it. Now, that does not necessarily need to be money or financial rewards. That could be to be part of the team, be part of the decision making, get the first one to have an early access to their product, looking into the project roadmap. Somehow they would like to have rewards related to their involvement. And lastly, it would be mutual ownership. And that could be done in a DAO structure, but it could also be done through governance tokens. So very important. Now, within Web 2, there are many companies that you're aware of that has adopted a community-led business approach. So some of those companies are Salesforce, Atlassian, GitHub, very much focusing on getting the community involved. But the difference compared to what they are doing in Web3 is that Web3 is not community-led. They are more focused on community-owned businesses. Now, that goes back again to, as I said, could be DAO, could be governance tokens, and it could be through voting. Now, why should we really care about communities, and why should we really care around how do we join different kind of communities? If you look into recent statistics from Statista on how many cryptocurrencies there are in the world, is more than 8,600. Now, there are way more communities in the world than actually cryptocurrencies, because there's a lot of projects that have just started. There's a lot of projects that hasn't released any kind of token. So this makes it definitely more complicated for all of us to find the right community that we want to belong to. But that makes it even more important that you chooses the community that you want to belong based on the values of that community itself. Because of the expectations of the project owner, they want you to support this project moving forward. You will be rewarded for it, but it needs to come with, it needs to relate to where you want how you want the world to be in the future and your values. Now, related to this, I also wanted to share with you some case studies on 2 different projects that has utilized the community in a way for them to grow, for them to really build up their projects. There are probably hundreds and thousands of different projects around the world that we can do use cases around the same. I picked 2. Mainly related to real FIs that has a social impact. And the reason for that is I wanted to show that there are a lot of projects in the Web3 world that has also bridged the gap on utilizing the technology, but you can see the effects in the real brick and mortar world itself, which is really important. Now, of course, because I have shared values with Cardano, both of these projects are on Cardano. Now, the first project or company is called Empower. Empower is, or has its vision to enable affordable housing in Africa. It's not, the founders of this project is not Africans, but they really want to focus on Africa itself. And one of those reasons are that a lot of new technologies can be adopted or can see a bigger change and difference in emerging markets. I can give you an example here in Singapore. So if we take Pay Now, Payla, for example, in the Web2 space, it's really good technology. I really like it. But then at the same time, has it really changed dramatically your life utilizing these technologies? Maybe not so much. It has given advantage. It's made it way more convenient. But if you take the same technology in Indonesia, for example, neighboring country, it will radically change how people can live and get access to things with technology. So the same way they focus on Africa because of the impact they can make. Now, they looked around in Africa and they saw that there are some definitely problem when it comes to affordable housing, and they picked one country called Mozambique. And a few problems that they found out was, one was climate change. There's a lot of typhoons, and because of the material they built the houses, they were always destroyed. So a problem. Second thing is, interest rates in Mozambique is crazily high. It's 22%. The third thing is, it's not really an issue with poor people. It's the system itself that has an issue in Mozambique. So what they did is they used blockchain and they used NFT, which the global market could buy to lend money to people in Mozambique, which is quite amazing. So they funded it through NFT. So to the extent that they managed to build a house for $10,000. So $10,000 each per house, which is really amazing. So they managed to change the landscape where previously people that could have access to home loan was about 3% in the country. They changed that to 60%. It's a massive difference. And this is all, not all only, but it's a lot of support and reason for them to achieving this is due to community itself. So the community helped them, as well as Mozambique, to grow home loan market with 5%. Directly supported by the community. Second thing is, the community enabled them to build the first 4 pilot houses through funding of NFTs. Thirdly, the community helped them win a blockchain award last year, which is related to blockchain for good. So all of these things is something that really happened and got adopted through the community of Cardano. So important it is. So amazing. The second company I want to share with you is a company called World Mobile. And World Mobile also have tackled Africa, actually. They aim to bring connectivity and identity to world's unconnected 50%. So what does that really mean? Today there are 3 billion people that are unconnected, meaning not connected to internet. And the reason for that is because telecom companies don't think it's can bring an ROI to do last mile delivery, specifically in rural areas. So because of that, 3 billion people are not connected today. It's quite a large amount. As well as many people in Africa do not have any identity document. We are quite fortunate here in Singapore. I think everyone here has at least IC and potentially passport. Very few have identity. So what they did is they really focus on providing digital identity to anyone that utilized their network, which gave them access, of course, to digital banking, other financial products, medical needs, because they now had an identity. Secondly, local business owners in the rural areas could operate affordable nodes. So that is how they managed to do the last mile connectivity. So affordable nodes, which also brings and connects the local community in the rural areas, and on the extra bonus, they could provide rewards to that community itself through the affordable nodes. They specifically focused on Tanzania, where they have delivered wireless network using renewable energy sources, solar-powered energy, and hybrid unlicensed spectrum to do the last mile delivery. They have also created a mesh network, for those of you who are more technical, where they really partner with local telecom companies, and the last mile itself, they are using existing fiber optics, connects air nodes to create the mesh network to reach to the villages. So through World Mobile, fishermen today within these villages have now access to digital identity, financial services, provide reward, and they can actually access internet. To me, that is really, really amazing. Today, they have created connectivity to around 320 villages in 4 or 5 markets in Africa. Now, one of the things that we wanted to do within EMURGO when it comes to community is to really be able to provide them a home which provides a 360 view of what is happening in the Cardano ecosystem. When I joined Web3 industry, I started looking into different kind of layer 1 blockchains, different kind of communities, and I found it's pretty much impossible to understand what's going on globally in every single community. Let alone, it's even difficult to find out what's going on within one layer 1 blockchain. And when I speak about one layer 1 blockchain, it could be Ethereum, Bitcoin, Cardano, Polygon, Algorand, whatever it might be. So there are so many things that is happening on a daily basis, advancement, which is driven by foundations, driven by project owners, developers all over the world, that is really difficult to find out what is really happening within each, more so what's happening within the entire ecosystem. That's why it's really important with communities, because they spread more information about what is happening. It's really important with media to be involved in this process for adoption. So what we want to do at least is to take a look under the hood of Cardano ecosystem itself. So we created Cardano Spot. So Cardano Spot is a social network for Cardano enthusiasts. So not only people that are within Cardano today, but people that maybe have an interest in understanding what is going on. What are the projects happening there? Who are the people I should connect with? And so forth and so on. So we really exist to empower and connect Cardano enthusiasts to do the things that inspire them, so that we can change the world together. Now, if you would join Cardano Spot, which I hope you will after this session, there are a couple of main things that you will get. One is a newsfeed, where you will have a possibility to find latest updates, and that is project updates, it's protocol level updates, is a curated view of what is going on in the ecosystem. And that is also personalized based on what your interests are. Second one is we have a Cardano-based project library. So what that really means is that we have projects from the Cardano ecosystem joining to showcase more of a yellow pages book for each different category within the Cardano space. Thirdly, if you are interested to know what's going on more face-to-face, we have an event calendar where you can meet people from the Cardano ecosystem, but localized. So whatever events happening in Singapore, we show them Malaysia, US, Europe, so based on country. And lastly, we have a community hub where you can really connect with sub-communities within the Cardano ecosystem. Sub-communities meaning NFT space, DeFi space, social impact. So depending on what you are interested in, you can go in and specifically connect with those kind of people. Now, lastly, we got the opportunity to provide a raffle for you guys here today. So, as you can see, this amazing T-shirt that I have in front of me, we are going to raffle out 2 T-shirts to you as an audience. What you have to do is following these 3 steps, and there will be a selection of winners around 1 p.m. today. Thank you so much.